I always believed that mess was part of one's personality, almost a peculiar charm. But as the years passed, I realized that living surrounded by meaningless objects made me feel trapped in a cycle of old habits. It was then that I decided to try something new, a technique that seemed almost magical, the Japanese method for organizing the home. Initially, I laughed to myself, wondering if those strict practices could apply to someone like me, who had accumulated memories and relics from a lifetime. But, surprisingly, it worked. I remember the first day I decided to test the method. I got up early with a cup of tea in hand, and looked at the living room, where papers, clothes, and small objects were piled up. I thought, can 15 minutes really change this chaotic situation? And so I began what I can only call a personal revolution. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, I turned the challenge into a game. A challenge that would make me rethink not only the organization of my home but also the way I approached life. The method is divided into simple steps. The first is conscious elimination. I began to look at each object and ask myself, does this really add value to me? Is it worth keeping? And if the answer was not positive, the object was gone. I admit that in the beginning it was painful to say goodbye to some things. Those memories that seemed to have sentimental value but in reality only took up space. But over time, I learned that true value lies in the memories and not in the accumulation of things. This small transformation changed my perspective. I began to value the essentials and let go of what was no longer useful. Then came the stage of intuitive organization. Instead of following a rigid manual, I let my intuition guide the steps. I placed each item in its proper spot with an almost therapeutic care, as if giving every object a new chance to tell its story. That's when I realized how small changes can have a huge impact on daily life. The energy of the environment changed. My home, which once seemed like a battlefield, became a refuge of peace and creativity. And you know what is even more curious? When applying this method, I realized that the external disorder was only a mirror of internal chaos. Those objects accumulated without purpose represented moments when I let life carry me along without making conscious choices. So, by organizing my home, I was also organizing my mind, my thoughts, and most importantly, my priorities. This process taught me to be more selective about what I allowed into my life, both materially and emotionally. Every corner of the house gained a new story. The kitchen, for example, ceased to be a storage room for forgotten utensils and became the heart of the home. There, every pan and every plate took on a new meaning, not because of its function, but because of the memory of special moments when family gathered to share laughter and conversations that warmed the soul. It was almost as if, by removing the superfluous, I had rediscovered the essence of every space. The Japanese method is not just an organization technique, it is a philosophy of life that made me rethink what truly matters. How many times do we let the routine consume us without realizing that simplicity may be the key to a lighter and happier life? By focusing on what is truly necessary, I make room for creativity and moments of introspection. An organized home becomes a reflection of a balanced mind, and if we allow ourselves that care, it is possible to transform not only the environment but also our inner selves. At 50 years old, I have weathered many storms and, I confess, also accumulated many things. But I learned that every item we choose to keep carries its own energy, positive or negative. The challenge is to identify that energy and decide whether it deserves to continue being part of our everyday life. Sometimes, I feel as if I am in a constant process of renewal, letting go of what no longer serves me and embracing the new with an open heart. This practice taught me that detachment is not a loss but a gain of time, space, and inner peace. Make no mistake, this method may seem simple, but its effectiveness lies in the way it forces us to reflect on our choices. Every object I remove, every item I put in its proper place, is an act of self-love. After all, if we do not take care of our environment, how can we expect to take care of ourselves? For me, organizing my home became a ritual of self-love, where each movement is a declaration that I am willing to transform my life, even if gradually. There were days when the desire to give up was strong. Looking at the accumulated mess made me think that maybe it was impossible to change everything at once. But then I remembered that the Japanese method does not demand perfection, it asks for authenticity. True change happens when we decide to act, even in a modest way, and every 15 minutes I reconnected with a more disciplined and aware version of myself. This daily practice became a small miracle that propelled me to be better every day. Over time, I noticed that the transformation extended beyond physical organization. My relationships also changed. Conversations with friends and family gained a new lightness because I was more present, more focused on enjoying every moment and less worried about hiding the mess. It is impressive how the clarity of the environment can reflect in the clarity of the mind. Today, every time I enter a tidy room, I feel as if I am stepping into a space of possibilities, where everything seems simpler and more beautiful. I know many might think that 15 minutes are not enough for a revolution, but the truth is that this method is not limited to a short period of time. It is, in fact, an invitation to a new way of approaching life. If we can transform our home in just a few minutes, why not also transform the way we live? This idea, although provocative, has the power to push us to rethink our priorities and seek what truly brings happiness. Today, as I organize yet another corner of my home, I feel as though I am writing a new chapter of my story. Every object I encounter, every space emerging from chaos, tells a part of my journey. And amid so many changes, I realize that the most important thing is not perfection, but the courage to take the first step. After all, what prevents us from starting over if not the fear of the unknown? To those who still doubt, I leave a message. Try this method with an open heart and see the magic happen. It is not about following rigid rules, but about embracing a new philosophy, where simplicity and detachment are the true protagonists. And if something goes wrong, laugh about it, learn from your mistakes, and above all, do not blame yourself. Life is made up of attempts, and every little step forward deserves to be celebrated. I confess that, many times, I am surprised by the transformation that a simple reorganization can provoke. It is as if every object, upon finding its place, becomes part of a harmonious dance that renews the energy of the environment. And it is exactly this energy that drives us to continue, even on the hardest days, when routine seems too heavy. I discovered that by taking care of my space, I was taking care of myself, and that connection is something that no method, however revolutionary, could teach me without allowing me to truly feel. There are moments when I feel almost poetic as I observe my home. Every room, with its unique character, transforms into a stage where life unfolds naturally. And despite the simplicity of the method, there is a depth in the choices we make when organizing what surrounds us. What was once just a pile of things becomes a narrative, a story that reflects our moments of joy, sorrow, and triumph. This realization makes me wonder, aren't we all, in some way, organizing our lives in the same manner? Could the mess of the world be, in fact, an invitation to transformation? It is curious how, over the years, I learned to see my home as an extension of myself. With every change, every new choice, I feel as if I am approaching a more authentic and true version of who I am. This journey is made not only of techniques or tricks, but of a keen attention to what truly matters. The Japanese method taught me that, to find peace, it is often necessary first to get rid of what binds us, be it objects or feelings that no longer hold value. Let me confess, it was not always easy. There were moments when the temptation to leave everything as it was almost irresistible. After all, mess also has its charm, doesn't it? But I learned that the true beauty of life lies in the ability to reinvent oneself. And if a simple 15-minute routine can bring me so much clarity, imagine what would be possible if I dedicated myself to greater changes? This irony of life makes me smile. We spend so much time accumulating things that we forget that, often, the essential is invisible to the eyes. I know you might be thinking, but how is it possible to transform everything in such a short time? The answer lies in mindset. It is not just about tidying up the house, but about organizing the mind and the heart. Every minute devoted to this ritual is an investment in oneself, an opportunity to reconnect with that part of us that is often hidden behind daily obligations. In this process, we realize that time is not an enemy but a precious ally, if we know how to make the most of it. I invite you to try this method, even if only out of curiosity. Set a timer if needed, and see how 15 minutes can make all the difference. Organize a drawer, a closet, or even that corner of your desk that always seems messy. Allow yourself to feel the satisfaction of seeing each object find its place and, with that, feel as if you are also discovering a bit more of yourself. And if the house ends up spotless? Laugh, play with the idea, and share this experience with someone who, like you, needs a fresh perspective on everyday life. And if by chance, while organizing, you find yourself philosophizing about the ironies of life, like that cup that has always been there, a silent witness to so many mornings and conversations. Remember, true change happens when we dare to look at what is right in front of our eyes and decide that we deserve more. More lightness, more clarity, more space for what truly matters. After all, if we can organize a home in 15 minutes, why not organize our lives in small moments of courage and authenticity? Between one task and another, I catch myself wondering, don't we need more moments like these? Small intervals that force us to pause, look around, and realize that everything has its value and its place. It is not about an obsessive pursuit of perfection, but an invitation to daily transformation. I learned that true organization is not about following a preset pattern, but about allowing oneself to be flexible, accepting that life is full of ups and downs, and that even on the most chaotic days, there is a hidden order waiting to be discovered. This approach made me rethink not only how I care for my home, but also how I face each challenge. Every object removed, every shelf rearranged, became a metaphor for letting go of what no longer serves and making room for the new. In a way, this process of purification has been one of the greatest gifts I could give myself. Today, when I look at my home, I see not just a clean environment, but a space that reflects my own journey of self-discovery and growth. The Japanese method, with its simplicity and depth, taught me the importance of living with less in order to appreciate what truly matters. It is not about deprivation, but about making conscious choices. With every item I remove, I feel as if I am reclaiming a bit of my freedom, a freedom that is often overshadowed by excess. In that pace, organization ceases to be an obligation and becomes an act of self-love, a way of saying, I deserve a space where my essence can shine, without the weight of the unnecessary. I now reflect on the many mornings when, even with time running short, I devoted myself to those 15 minutes. What a contrast from the days when I got lost in the mess, feeling overwhelmed and directionless. I discovered that by taking a small step toward organization, I was, in fact, taking a big leap toward freedom. And that freedom, my friend, is something that no method can measure, but that is felt deeply in the heart. We live in a world where the hustle is constant, and often, we forget that the true luxury is having time for ourselves. Organizing the home in 15 minutes is not just a tidying up technique. It is a philosophy that teaches us to value every moment. By establishing a simple and effective routine, we gain more than just a clean space. We gain moments of introspection and the chance to reconnect with what makes us happy. And if you still have doubts, remember, even the greatest transformations begin with small gestures. Today, as I finish another session of organization, I find myself smiling at the irony of having taken so long to discover something that was always within our reach. And it is this irony that inspires me to share every detail, every tip I have learned over the years. Because, in the end, true transformation is not about following a rigid manual, but about allowing oneself to experiment, make mistakes, and above all, learn from every experience. Be the protagonist of your own story. Try the method, challenge your own conventions, and discover that often, the simple can be extraordinary. Life is too short to be held back by excess, and believe me, every well-spent 15 minutes can make all the difference. May this method serve as a reminder that organization is not an end in itself, but the beginning of a new way of living, with more lightness and authenticity. And so, with a mischievous smile and a light heart, I move forward, ready for the next challenge, knowing that every act of organization is a step toward a fuller and more conscious life. Believe it, if a 50-year-old homemaker can reinvent her routine with 15 minutes a day, imagine what you can do with the same courage and determination.